Hello, BookTube. The day's first mail haul is small, but satisfyingly hefty. I've got only 2 packages here, but they're both conspicuously heavy. And that's good. That tends to be good. Could be really bad, but it tends to be good. So we'll do this first one. We only got 2, so this won't be a long mail haul at all. We'll do this first one. I've got a restless bean patrolling the room. She clearly wants to go out. She's wanted to go out many times today. And this first one, I don't understand sometimes the people who package these things. They'll put something that obviously belongs in an envelope in a box, and then at other times they'll put something that obviously belongs in a box in an envelope, so that you've got to make confetti out of the whole thing in order to dispose of it at all. I mean, it's a little bit annoying, but anyway. So what have we got here? Oh, fantastic. Okay, great. Great. This is coming out any day. Oh, it comes out on June the 4th. June the 4th, I think, is a Tuesday. Tuesday tends to be the release day for new books in the United States. And that's unfortunate in this case because June the 6th is the 75th anniversary of D-Day. So I'm sure that it's just wrote. That's when the pallets are filled. That's when the trucks go out. But the perfect day for this would be June the 6th. But considering the fact that most retail bookstores in America are staffed by people who don't know anything about books, they're staffed by people who don't know anything about history, and they're also understaffed. So a 200,000 square foot store will have 6 people working in a given day. So good luck going in and getting any help, and also good luck hoping that the pallets and pallets of new releases that are received will go out anywhere near their release date. They don't. Instead, there'll be whole library cards, whole V cards in the back in receiving, stacked up and lined up and backed up of new releases that there's simply no one physically there to put them out. So, because if other retail chains are anything like Barnes and Noble, they really hate the fact that they have to put out new releases because they really hate the fact that they have customers. They really, really do. They prefer to just continue having meetings and ordering college undergraduates around with the doors closed and locked. The customers are really an annoyance. So the fact that a book is brand new on that Tuesday and you have plenty of it and it's not going to go out until 3 weeks later, it's not really a concern, is it? I mean, as long as corporate in New York continues to sign our paychecks. But anyway, the release date for this thing is June the 4th, but the date should clearly be June the 6th, because this is James Holland's Normandy 44. A big, gigantic history of his, of not just Operation Overlord and Operation Neptune and D-Day itself, but also the whole of it, the whole taking of France. Wow. Okay. So what have we got here? This new book provides fresh insights on the momentous Normandy campaign. It certainly does not, but that doesn't matter. There are going to be tons and tons of great historians who are going to write about this year. They don't need to have fresh insights. They just need to do a really energetic new job. D-Day, June 6, 1944, and the 76 days of bitter fighting in Normandy that followed the Allied landing have become a defining episode of World War II in the West, the object of books, films, television series, and documentaries. The story is a familiar one, and yet, approaching the 75th anniversary of this epical event, its traditional narrative is still driven by both myth and assumed knowledge that is often incorrect. In Normandy 44, Holland has crafted a fresh chronicle that reframes our understanding of D-Day and the Normandy campaign, challenging the accepted view that Germany only lost because of the Allies' material advantage. That the U.S. dominated the Allied effort, and that air power was lesser importance than ground power? Who has ever said that? Who has ever said that? Drawing on archives and testimonies of eyewitnesses from foot soldiers, tankmen, commanders, fighter pilots, as well as civilians caught in the maelstrom, Holland recreates the brutal campaign that, in terms of daily casualties, was worse than any in World War I. Fantastic. Well, I like this author, so I'm all for it. And I have had the advance copy of Normandy 44, and I have not got to it. Just been buried in other books. So I will get to this right away, especially since I'm writing at least 2 pieces that I know of on D-Day for 2 different publications. So I kind of have to have this down. Great, fantastic. This is, oh wow, look at those end papers. Very nice. This is the author of. He's written a whole bunch of World War II era books, including The Rise of Germany and the Allies Strike Back, 2 volumes in what is going to be a 3-volume set. Fantastic. Okay, well, that's great. That's a great big D-Day book, and that is one of the 2 packages here. I think it'd be hilarious if the second of these 2 packages was also a great big D-Day book, but there are lots of them coming out. So it's unlikely, but it could happen. You've got to be careful with this package because it's flaking asbestos all over the place here. I don't particularly want either me or Frida to breathe in too much of that. Here, let's get this out of the way, baby, and try not to breathe this in. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. Okay. All right. It is. It's exactly that. Okay. This is Sand and Steel by Peter Caddick-Adams. This is another gigantic history of D-Day and Operation Overlord. This is, the subtitle is D-Day Invasion and the Liberation of France. And this is by the author of Snow and Steel about the Battle of the Bulge. This author wrote, that was fantastic. He did a fantastic book on the Battle of the Bulge. Probably the best one. Even though A Bridge Too Far is so well known, or no, rather not A Bridge Too Far, but the Sound of Trumpets is so well known. I still think his book is probably better, just more inclusive in every way. And here you go. Okay, well, you've got the cover photos kind of say it all. The cover photos certainly signal that he is going to talk about everybody, not just the Allies, not just the men who stormed the beaches at Omaha. I've read this book and I really, really liked it. This guy is on a roll. His Snow and Steel was great. Sand and Steel is great. Can't wait to see what the next book he does is. But they're both must-have volumes. And this comes out at the end of May. This comes out in a week. Nope, you can't go up there, Frida. You desperately want to. Frida, I've got the camera on the top of the couch here. For the last 2 hours, whenever I have even suggested, verbally, lightly suggested that Frida come up on the couch and look out her window, she has run away. Not just said no, but run away. For the last 2 hours, every time I have even lightly suggested that she settle down and look out the window, she has run away from the idea. Now there's a camera exactly where she has to go. And it's the only thing she wants to do. It's the only thing she wants to do. And all I have to do for 10 minutes is stop her from doing that, and she's desperate now to come up here and knock the camera out of the way and lay down and do what I've asked her to do for 2 hours. So that's not going to happen. But it's a little battle of wills here, and it's not a small thing to battle the will of a little schnauzer because they are extremely strong-willed dogs. But anyway, this author is great. I'm going to be reviewing this book, and I can't wait. I want to sing its praises. I think it. I haven't read the Holland book, but I find this a mighty tough thing to beat. I think this will still be being read in 50 years. So we're going to get the pub sheet will be pretty much the same thing as we just read. June 19th marks the 75th anniversary of the liberation of France during World War II. Peter Caddick-Adams' account of the Allied invasion of France matches the monumental achievement of his book on the Battle of the Bulge, Snow and Steel. Okay. Which Richard Overy has called the standard history of this. Okay, now she's swatting at the pub sheet. You have to stop doing this. I need 5 more minutes. There you go. You have to stop doing it. That's a very willful dog. Imagine swatting at the pub sheet because I won't let her knock the camera over. Anyway, we're back to boring old Sir Richard Overy. He said that Caddick-Adams' book on the Battle of the Bulge was the standard history of this climatic confrontation in the West. And in this book, the author gives us D-Day, arguably the greatest and most consequential military operation of modern times, beginning with the years of painstaking and costly preparation, through to the pitched battles fought along France's north coast from Omaha Beach and the push to Strasbourg. And that is true. This book spends an unprecedented amount of time, in my reading anyway, writing about the years of preparation for D-Day. The author stresses over and over again that these men, the men who took the beaches, had been training for this activity for a long time under extremely arduous conditions, including live ammo drills. It's his contention that he says he can't back it up with statistics, but he gets that feeling. And reading his book, I get that feeling too. It's his contention that as many people at least died in those preparations, in the preparatory exercises, as died during Overlord itself. I think the Allied fatalities were somewhere around 4,400 men, and he maintains that that many people died preparing, and I don't see how that would not be true. The thing is, they knew what they were doing. Everything had been prepared. All of the commanders said the preparation was 10 times more important than the luck of the draw and the happenstance of what they encountered when they got there. And that luck broke in both directions. I mean, Hitler took command of most of the operations on the ground on D-Day, and also ignored his greatest military strategist. Erwin Rommel had looked at Normandy, at the beaches of Normandy, and said, not only had he said long before anyone else thought it was true, that this is where the invasion will happen. It won't be Calais, it'll be here. Not only had he said that, but far more importantly, he had said and insisted loudly over and over again that the key place to stop this invasion will be here. The standard textbook way to do this, of waiting for their forces to gather and then defeating them on flat, dry land, a little inland, is wrong. The whole operation here hinges on whether or not these forces can establish a beachhead. If we prevent them from establishing a beachhead, we have a chance. They'll have to regroup, and they had to take an enormous amount of time to plan this in the first place. If we make them regroup, we gain a lot more time. That was entirely true. But anyway, where were we here? The Allied invasion of Europe involved mind-boggling logistics, including orchestrating the largest flotilla of ships ever assembled. Its strategic and psychological demands stretched the Allies to their limits, testing the strength of the bonds of the Anglo-American leadership, drawing on first-hand battle research, personal testimony, and interviews. So you're going to get that for every one of these books. And a commanding grasp of all the archives and literature. Caddick-Adams' gripping book, published on the 75th anniversary of events, is sure to stand as the definitive account of Operations Overlord and Neptune. Operation Overlord was the name for the invasion of Hitler's Europe, and Operation Neptune was the name for the nested operation of taking the 5 beaches. And that's fantastic. Okay, great. So I have finished copies of both of these. These will not be the last D-Day books that I get. I've had probably 24 so far. Although I think these two will probably be among a relatively small number of big, gigantic, soup to nuts accounts. I'm pretty sure that all the rest of the accounts that I'm getting are specialty. They are like, for instance, the pathways for the gliders had to be opened up at right after midnight at 15 minutes past midnight on June the 6th by commandos who had to go into over Nazi occupied Normandy. And there was also a massive airdrop of dummies and also men. All of these individual, we've seen a lot of them on this channel, all these individual slivers of Overlord and preparations to Overlord that had to happen and are getting their own books. And also, everybody had a father, everybody had a grandfather who was there, who participated in some way or other. And also, there were 1 million civilians that were caught in totally unawares, unable to flee, nowhere to go anyway, and were caught between the Germans and the Allies. All of their stories there are 1 million stories to come out of D-Day. And on an anniversary like this is a perfect chance. If you are, the grandson of a certain person, or the 90-year-old son of a young man who stormed the beaches at Normandy, and you have his letters and his diary entries and a few mementos, this is your chance to sell that book to a publisher. If you can't do it on the 75th anniversary, you're not going to be able to do it any other time. Excuse me. Okay, so that is our mail haul. It's rather enticing to me. It might be a little boring to you. These are finished copies of the 2 big D-Day books, the 2 biggest D-Day books coming out this year. on the 75th anniversary. So we have Normandy 44 and Sand and Steel. A small but very hefty mail haul for me, and also a logistical thing, because the two pieces that I'm writing are both roundups of multiple books, and you want to do justice, but there is no way that, even in a roundup, there's no way that I can do all the books that are out now. So my Caddick-Adams goes without saying, I think, but my question now for both those pieces becomes, what else do I include? And the Holland book, I'll read it. I'll read it today. I'll start this afternoon and read it tonight. And it won't be a fly-through. I'll read it. I'll just bear down and read it for real, read it critically, because it might be necessary. I don't see how I can avoid mentioning it in either of those pieces. I wouldn't want to. I'm probably going to have to mention it, so I'll want to consume it anyway. And maybe it needs a whole review of its own. Okay, well, there you go. so you World War II buffs. It's two big books on D-Day. So I'll wrap this up. I have conducted my own little D-Day operation as far as I can. I need to appease my little schnauzer. It might not have worked for Neville Chamberlain, but appeasement is the order of the day here at Hyde Cottage. So I'm going to wrap this up and take her out and try and exhaust her on a walk. And I will be back for more bookish stuff. You can count on it. But first, my little Hanoverian warrior princess must be appeased. I'll see you soon, Book 2.